Good morning, my name is Chris Fox, and today we're talking about the 3 types of character flaws. This video is designed to be a follow-up for last week's, which was the 4 pillars of character creation. It basically taught you how to create kind of vibrant, realistic characters. But this part should be present too for most of them, and you want to give them one or more of these types of flaws. And in a way, you could definitely think of this as the 5th pillar. So what are these types of flaws? Well, the first one is psychological. This is the one that most of us are familiar with. Typically, if you've got a character that's an alcoholic, if maybe they have a crippling fear of abandonment, if they have an extreme temper, these are all psychological flaws that can manifest in different ways. And this is really, when I think of character flaws, what I typically would have thought about until recently. I think what changed it for me was running across some material by John Truby where he did show these 3 categories of flaws, and I started thinking about how those applied to all characters. So anyway, the second type of flaw is physical. Physical flaws can be things like maybe your character is paraplegic or maybe they're blind. But it goes beyond that. You can also include things like age. So if you look at the first Harry Potter movie, Harry is a very young kid, and this limits what he's able to do. He can't make his own decisions. His parents, or in this case, his aunt and uncle, make all his decisions for him because he's too young to do it himself. He's too small and too young to fight back against other people in the world, and that is very much a weakness. So age is something you could tap into. You could flip to the other extreme of the scale too. You could make somebody very, very old, which is something that Hugh Howey does in his novel Wool. One of the characters is very old, and like 2 of the chapters in this are basically her walking down a long flight of stairs and the toll this takes on her physically and the people that she meets along the way. So it's a little bit slow, but her age being a flaw is a huge part of this story. And I think that you can layer in physical flaws on top of psychological flaws, give your characters one or both where they make sense, but it's kind of another avenue for you to present a flawed character. If you don't think a psychological flaw works, maybe give them a physical. And then finally, if neither of those flaws work, or if you feel like they just need more flaws on top of what they already have, the third category is moral flaws. You kind of have a moral paradigm that most of us tend to follow. It's not necessarily the law. There are some things that a lot of us do that are technically illegal, that many people don't feel are immoral, but it's what most people in a given society would consider to be amoral. Murder is a great example. Most places in the world consider murder to be amoral. So if your character is a cold-blooded murderer, that's a flaw. If your character is willing to rob banks, that's a flaw. If your character will screw over their own mother for $5, that is a flaw. And all of these fall into the moral umbrella. So when you are creating your character, take a look and try to make a little list. Which of these flaws do you have? Do you have a moral flaw? Do you have somebody who swings too far and is righteous? So that can be a moral flaw too, where you tend to lord over others your moral superiority. Consider, does your character have one of these? Do they have a physical flaw? Do they have a psychological flaw? And for me, looking at flaws this way made it way easier to take a character that I created, like in the last video, and then layer some of this stuff into them so that they are more believable. They are something that my reader can connect with. So anyway, guys, those are the 3 types of character flaws. Hopefully this video is helpful. It is meant to be a quick tip, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I've got tons of writing to do, as I'm sure you are aware, so I'm going to get back to the writing, and I will see you guys next week.